my name is Sascha Eschmann. I'm acting as a deputy manager of the digital solutions team that we have at RTE International. I will talk a bit further about RTE International. I hope that you're still all well, because you are probably all tired after 2 days of talks, still energized. In any case, no worries. No worries, because it will be more or less a relaxed session for you, at least. Relax, because I will not address complicated topics. By complicated, I mean no mathematical optimization, no algorithm, no complicated concepts, only operational good sense, so it should be a relaxed session for you. All right. Oops. So yeah, I planned 3 different sections. The first one about my company, what it does. Second section more about OperatorFabric. So OperatorFabric, which is one of the open source projects part of this LF Energy. So firstly, from a theoretical point of view, and then more in this third section, more in a pragmatical point of view. So I will show you some use cases that we have, and even make you participating if you are open to. So we made available a demonstration, let's say, website. So we just deployed this raw version of OperatorFabric on the internet, and you can play with me then during my demonstration. The best for this demo is to join with your laptop, because with the phone is maybe not the best display, but anyways. So yeah, I will keep, let's say, this link in the top right corner, so you can be prepared for the demo afterwards. All right. So RTE International, a few words about my company. So RTE International is a subsidiary of the French TSO, RTE. RTE International is a consultancy and engineering company which has been founded 20 years ago, almost 20 years ago in 2006. We are mainly promoting, let's say, RTE. So around the company, RTE's expertise abroad through projects that we delivered more or less worldwide. Through, let's say, different areas. The first area is, let's say, engineering projects, so really studies to design new substation lines, mainly in Africa or Asia. Second, let's say, area is more, let's say, related to expertise. So in HVDC, for instance, in feasibility study for new offshore wind farms or new interconnection between countries. And we even have, let's say, a quite modern and sophisticated lab located in France, which offers us quite a lot of possibilities, mainly possibilities to replicate the actual behavior of such equipment. Sorry. We also have, let's say, a team more related to asset management, mainly able also to support TSOs for maintenance activities. By maintenance, I mainly mean, let's say, a live working maintenance. Not sure you're familiar with that, but really doing maintenance activities on equipment which are still live, so under voltage, not without any outage. And we also have a team, let's say, doing network studies, so master plans, reserve sizing, and so on. But today we will mainly talk about the team I belong to, so the digital solutions team, which is a team which delivers, let's say, IT solutions or services to other TSOs or entities. We mainly work for NSOE, other TSOs like APG, Elering, or other entities like RCCs. I'm here mentioning Coreso, but there is not only Coreso. And main thing is that we are not doing that since yesterday. We are doing that, I mean, this delivery of IT solutions based on open source products. We are doing that since more than 5 years. So since, let's say, the open source journey started at RTE, we took, let's say, the train with them, and we are quite proud about that, because we, at the beginning, we had a lot of skepticals, and it was not that easy to get business. We are a company which tries at least to do business, and we kept, let's say, this strategy, and today it's quite quite good to see that this community is open, and that entities, TSOs, companies are open to listen such topics. All right, that was it about RTE International. Now let's just focus on OperatorFabric, so what it is from a theoretical point of view. So we can, let's say, define OperatorFabric as a communication platform which allows to monitor, supervise different processes, business processes, operational processes, and just to highlight how it is from a, let's say, simple point of view, currently in some companies, in some process, so usually you have one operator, or usually you can have one operator, one guy in charge of one process. The process is quite straightforward, so you have a classic communication channel, the phone, the mail, and all of this is good as long as it is like that. But from my experience and from my point of view, it looks like more like that. So we usually ask more and more to people. That's why we ask being transversal, which is more a word to say that you have to do everything. So being transversal, so one guy, one operator is in charge of several processes using different communication channels, so different recipients, and it becomes quite quickly difficult for the operators to manage their daily tasks. And in addition to that, there are a few, let's say, drawbacks of this, let's say, setup. Using the phone is a very good thing because it's efficient. In 30 seconds or 1 minute, you can fix your issue or fix your, let's say, situation. But there is a huge problem, is that in most of the cases, there is no traceability, except if you record your phone calls. Not sure. Emails are, let's say, a bit better because there is, let's say, a given level of traceability. But there is one main drawback, is that you don't control where is going your info in most of the cases, because usually a mail server of your company is in the cloud, controlled by you don't know. And as I mentioned, there is this topic of multi-processes. So for the operators, it's usually like that at the end of the day. And that's what I experienced in my 5 years of visiting customers and operators. So with OperatorFabric, we try to at least simplify, ease the daily activities of operators, and also cover some of these drawbacks. So it comes somehow here in the middle. As I mentioned, it's an application which allows you to cover different processes, different services. And the idea is that it's an application, a communication platform that you control, you can install, you can deploy in your own environment, in your premises. So you can define yourself your security, let's say, requirements. You can yourself define if you have let's say, you are able to manage, let's say, the level of confidentiality that you want to have for your process. And yeah, so in addition, given that OperatorFabric can manage different processes, services, you are also able to somehow reduce the number of screens or apps that your operators have open on its or their desktop. In addition, which is also different than using phone or mails, OperatorFabric's messages or cards are addressed to a group, an entity, not a single user, which is also a quite basic thing in companies, but which still happens. So given that one guy is in charge of one process, you always contact this guy, and when he is not there anymore, or when he's on vacations, which can happen, which should happen, you are somehow blocked. So that is a very simple thing, but quite important. Okay. And yeah, at the end of the day, operator should look like that and not like that. So yeah, let's continue with, let's say, this more concrete or practical part. I will, let's say, showcase you OperatorFabric through two different demos. The first one, which is really the raw OperatorFabric, so the one that you can find on GitHub. You can deploy it, and you will see the same thing that we will use now. And second thing is to show you a project in which we deliver, let's say, a use case. It's a European project, a European founded project, in which we developed a use case for the TSO-DSO coordination, but it's, once again, something quite simple, just to have a common place or space where you can communicate with a DSO, between a TSO and a DSO. Given that I'm a guy which, or who, let's say, likes taking risks, I will do this demo live, and you can definitely join me using this link. So for those who are interested to join, you just have to open your web browser, use this link, which is located here. So you just have to type it in your web browser, and then log in with one of these accounts. You can take the one that you want, and I will try to also share what I'm doing. Okay, perfect. So let me log in with, let's say, operator 1 in France. I hope that you did not all take this one. Oops. Let's do that like that. So that is how OperatorFabric looks like. So when it is in its, let's say, raw version, so you firstly have, let's say, this header of the application where you have access to different menus. Here we are in the card feed menu, which is the main menu or screen of the application. And what is also interesting is mainly this top right corner where you have, let's say, the user settings, and mainly this button that you will be able to use, which is the one allowing you to create a new card or message. Just under, let's say, this header, you have this timeline, which can more or less look like, I don't know, which looks like something that you can find in control rooms. But if you find that quite ugly, you can just hide it because you are allowed to not like it. But yeah, the idea of this timeline is to give you the possibility to move in the time, either in the past, in the future, or if you're more, let's say, a real-time operator, to keep this real-time view and only manage what is coming in a real-time time frame. But if you are, for instance, let's say, I don't know, operational planner, you can focus on a specific week, so you can select week and move in the future or in the past, depending on your tasks. So yeah, let's create a card together. By clicking on Create Cards, it opens you, let's say, this pop-up window, which is more or less a template in which you can configure your card or message. And let's just maybe ask a question. Let's name it, I don't know, la fille. And do you like OperatorFabric? I see that I received already a card, but I didn't see it, so it's maybe one of you. And I will, I will send it to all, let's say, the users available in my demo, and just send it to all of you. So given that I changed my settings, I do not see it, but let's come back to the real-time, let's say, visualization. And here I can see my question. I can see that I sent this question. I can even answer to that question because I'm also one of the recipients. I can see who received this question or which entities, and which already, let's say, replied here. So you have some very basic, simple features which allows you to cover such basic and simple use cases, but which are needed for, let's say, the sensitive process that you're maybe managing in your company. Okay, Thanks for those who already answered, sorry. Italian guys, these are Dutch guys. So yeah, you can indeed, let's say, ask questions, coordinate through this simple way of questions, answers. But you can also just distribute, let's say, informative messages. I will show you some, maybe, let's say, more sophisticated ones that we sent before this demo, but in the purpose of the demonstration. For instance, in the context of a contingency, for instance, this one, where we also added, let's say, like a diagram, which is more or less dynamic. So it's still simple, but here you can see that you have a diagram, a network diagram, in which you have a one line which is in contingency, let's say, or overhead, and yeah, that's another, let's say, simple display, but quite useful, mainly if you want to distribute efficiently this information. And another one which can be interesting for you is more, let's say, not this one, more related to diagrams. Yes, this one, I think. So yeah. So it can also be, here we, let's say, monitor the quality of something, but it can also be, I don't know, the consumption curve of your company, of your area, can be whatever, and this info can be shared quite easily. Just to show you that we are not limited to simple text, it can also be a bit more sophisticated than that. Okay. Thanks for those who tried it. And now let me just continue with this short demo about this TSO-DSO coordination use case that we developed at RTE International for this European project. This project is named R2D2. So it's not a joke, it's the actual name of the project. It's also a robot that you might know. And in this use case, we cover a lot of different things. R2D2 is mainly for resilience and defense of the grid. So in this project, we mainly cover crisis situations, and the idea of using OperatorFabric in this project is to align between TSO and DSO in crisis situations or pre-crisis situations. And also there is another use case that I will show you is to, if I manage it, is to share models, network models, to be aggregated or merged in another application out of OperatorFabric. So it's quite really simple. A really simple use case. Let's log in with a TSO. Okay. You can also log in with this one. Okay. Okay. Let me just try it again. In the meantime, I will also talk you, because at the beginning I wanted to show you another, let's say, more actual use case, which is under development at RTE, so our French TSO, but it's not yet totally ready. It's more still a prototype. That's why I'm not able to share it with you. But the idea of this use case at RTE is to use OperatorFabric as a single place to coordinate on this multi-year outage process, internal one, and also to include our main DSO in France. We have one main DSO, and then, let's say, more smaller ones, is also to involve this main DSO in OperatorFabric, and they are still working on that. That's why I cannot, let's say, show it, but let's already show this first use case with R2D2. So I managed to log in. I logged in as a DSO, but I can also log with another entity, whatever. As you can see, it looks like very similar. There are other menus, but anyways. And the idea is just to create a new card also. And here you have, let's say, as you can see, differently than in the demo just before, we have, let's say, other templates which are available, and these templates have been, let's say, designed with the end user or with the end user, and they cover a specific use case. So, as I mentioned, there are a few related to crisis situations. So, it's basically a message which is pre-formatted. You just have to fill some of the fields. And yeah, let's say, for instance, for this TSO-DSO planning for resilience, so it's more or less the exchange distribution of files to perform merging of networks models. So here it's a simple message just to trigger, let's say, this process in which you also select a file which will be your model. I take the first one I have. It's definitely not a network model, and yeah, and so this triggers, let's say, a task to another entity which uses this file in its own system application, and at the end, this entity or TSO can then provide, let's say, the results of its study. At the end, I do not have any results now, so I cannot go until the end. But I think that you got it. Okay. I think that's more or less it from my, let's say, demonstration point of view. I'm really glad that you managed to connect to our, let's say, public instance of OperatorFabric. Main message that I wanted to somehow share is that no need to always try to do complicated things. Humans, or let's say, mainly engineers, are used to do that, and probably me the first, but if you want to have already, let's say, things also working, you should maybe go step by step. And one of the first steps that we managed to do with this R2D2 project, but also at RTE, is to find and define a common platform, which is OperatorFabric, even if the features are quite simple, which is already a very huge step. And that's it from me. If you have any questions, I'm open to try to answer them at this. Oops.
Hello. Yeah, that works. A few small questions, maybe. The first one, is this solution kind of no-code, low-code, or once you install it, you then have to do, all kind of developments behind? And then I saw you also doing a lot of stuff manually. Can you also create all of these cards via APIs and maybe define a lifespan so that something, once you get past the threshold, it's maybe not relevant for the operator anymore? And then the last question, you mentioned OperatorFabric, but then there's also the Let's Coordinate. And I saw in the second R2D2 URL that it was a Let's Coordinate. So what's a bit the difference between the two? Is it the same thing as GridSuite and Possible, or?
Yeah, I will try to answer the three ones if I remember them. The last one, maybe, because it's the one I remember at least. So difference between OperatorFabric and Let's Coordinate. Indeed, OperatorFabric is, let's say, a raw framework which has been initially developed. So it's, let's say, the oldest and initial one. We, let's say, did a custom version for this R2D2 project that they or we named Let's Coordinate. So at the end, given that we are not at the end of the project, we didn't, let's say, merge again everything we did for this Let's Coordinate project to the OperatorFabric. Maybe we will not merge everything, I'm not sure. That's why. The question before about the manual or automated messages, that's true, that's a very good question. Both are possible. What I showed you is mainly manual because for the purpose of the demonstration, but in our, let's say, operational and production applications, we have projects at TSO which are using OperatorFabric. This card creation feature that you just saw is not enabled, it's totally disabled. All the messages are coming from other applications which have, let's say, all this complexity computation thing. And yeah, and the first question was about low code, no code. Currently, it's totally coding, so there is no, let's say, low code approach, but which is definitely a good proposal for improvement indeed, mainly for this card templating and everything. That's a good one.
Yeah. Thank you.
Don't know if there is another question.
There might be sensitive information communicating between TSO, DSO. Have you thought about cybersecurity?
Yeah, that's also a good one. Maybe I should come back in one of my slides, mainly this one. Cybersecurity is always a tricky question, but my easy answer is always it depends on your requirements, because it depends from one customer to another. It depends on the data you're sharing. But with OperatorFabric, given that you can install it where you want, and if you have specific cybersecurity requirements, you control this environment. So that is already one thing where all the data are shared and stored. So if it's in an environment that you control, it's already okay. And in addition, OperatorFabric is compliant with a lot of security audits. They mainly passed one quite recently at the beginning of the year, and no stiff one. I don't know exactly the name of it. So it's quite a popular one, which shows that OperatorFabric is quite aligned with the security requirements. And in addition, for our let's say production reference, so the version of OperatorFabric that we delivered in production to customers, they usually do with us like thread modeling, scan of the code on a weekly basis. So we have currently quite, let's say, strict customers, but which is a good thing. So the code is scanned every week. We know if there are new vulnerabilities on the code or on the libraries that are using OperatorFabric. So yeah, it's quite an up-to-date project, and from a cybersecurity point of view, I believe it's already on a high level. Yeah.
Thank you.
Can it be used by people not using the app? So for instance, we have several users within the app communicating to each other, but can you communicate outside? For instance, it would automatically send an email to a third party not in the ecosystem.
Yeah, that's a good question, which also joins this API question. So we can imagine that a message goes out to another application, but that is totally feasible through, let's say, standard technologies like Kafka, RabbitMQ, and so on. But for the email, there is a specific feature that I didn't talk today, but there is a mail out service, which is a part of OperatorFabric. So you can also configure, let's say, that when this message comes, it triggers an email to this user. That is a feature which exists here. 30 seconds are remaining.
How was the process for you to create the UI? Did you talk to the operators? What feedback did they give?
Yeah, that's also a good question, because the project has been initially developed by RTE, so it mainly fitted their, let's say, UI needs and standards, which are not the same everywhere. That's sure. For our projects that we have in production, we of course included the specific needs of the user. That's why we have sometimes some deviation between the totally open source project and the one that we deliver to our customer. We always have to do, let's say, like a trade-off between the open source project, what we propose to our customer, what he or she wants. So yeah, not sure it totally answers your question, but yeah.
Any main feedback that operators give on the UI, like what do they want or what do they really not want?
Yeah, the main thing on which we work is mainly, let's say, the content of the messages. I don't know if I'm still showing it, but it's mainly what are, let's say, the displayed information and so on. And when there is really something specific which is required, like a list of messages in another format or another sorting, we are used to develop another specific, let's say, menu or screen within the application if it becomes really too specific. Quite recently for NSOE on this OPCSTA project, we had indeed to develop, let's say, another view which contains the same information but another view only, so listing the messages in another way. It's not more complicated than that yet.
Short last question. One use case you mentioned already, outages. Is one of the use cases also grid restoration for this?
We cover, let's say, a few different use cases for the outages. It's not that true for the one that I showed you, R2D2, but what we are doing for NSOE, for this OPC and STA project. I don't know if some of you are familiar with that, with this outage planning coordination, which is done on a pan-European level. So all TSOs in Europe are using OperatorFabric to align, coordinate on outages. That's one thing. And then for the grid restoration, I believe it's one of the use cases covered by R2D2, but I'm not the best one to talk about this one yet.
Nice. Thanks.
Is there another question? If not, feel free to reach out, and thanks a lot for your participation.